Less than 24 hours, Georgians will be under a shelter-in-place order.
McDonald, though, said he did not know the man was handcuffed and was trying to use his foot to pin him to the ground so he could be handcuffed.
If your friends, neighbors, or local organizations are not complying, report them to us.
All right, James Dutton, welcome to the Free Georgia Podcast. How you doing, man?
Good to be back. Good to be back.
Heck yeah. A while ago, you came on the show to talk about traffic cameras that they had put up in your county. And there had been a lot of outrage over those at the time, and they were ticketing people left and right. And it was a third-party company that had no affiliation with the government in a different state. Can you give us an update on what's been happening with those cameras?
Oh boy, can I? At the time that I came on the first time, I believe we were in the first year, right at the end of the first year of these tickets, they had written 27,000 of them. At this point, there are over 81,000 of them written. It's year 3. Oh my God. You can tell by the data, this is slowing no one down. Okay. Less people are driving through school zones, but that's because they're going, oh, there's a camera there. Let me go through this residential neighborhood instead. They're not slowing down. We're just driving more traffic into residential neighborhoods. The other crazy part about it, of course, is when the school districts learn, oh, well, this will slow everyone down. We don't need to hire and pay for all those crossing guards anymore. So they let them all go. So no one's safer. No one's slowing down. And yet there's no more crossing guards, which means the kids are, practically speaking, not just, oh, I hope this works, but we can demonstrate that the kids are less safe now because of this case, because of these cameras. We had another hearing in December. We will be taking that case all the way to the Supreme Court. Again, this will be our second time to the Georgia Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. We have a very sympathetic judge and a very sympathetic prosecutor who both go, we're doing the best with these, but we don't like the way it's done at all. And we hope that they take your case and either reform the law or get rid of the law and send it back to the state house for them to try again. But in this hearing, some interesting new developments came up. If you get stopped on the side of the road with a speeding ticket, you can ask the officer for their calibration check. If it's a laser, the calibration is electronic. But if it's radar, there's a whole synchronized swimming procedure they do. They take out 2 literal tuning forks. They bang the one and it's 35 miles an hour because it tells how fast the tuning fork's going. And then they bang the other one and it's 65. And then they hold them both up and it subtracts the difference and goes this. And so you're supposed to be able to go, yep, it is tuned correctly, but It's this physical movement involved. Well, these devices self-calibrate every hour. They're a radar device, but there's no moving parts. So we subpoenaed the calibration checks and the people responsible for the calibration checks to come to court by name. Now, of course, we don't know their names. The state has their names. We learned in the hearing itself, they were able to produce one sheet of paper that is the calibration certification. Vera Mobility is who the contract is with. They run the program there. That's the for-profit that runs and gets all these millions of dollars. They send all the information to the police officer. He has no information about the case other than what he gets electronically from Vera Mobility. None. We have that on the record. And then he comes in and says, this is all true. Well, that is the textbook definition of hearsay. This is an out-of-court statement asserted, trying to be admitted for the truth of the matter asserted. Okay? You're trying to bring an out-of-court document, statement, whatever, and bring it in with no firsthand knowledge that it's true. I just trust Vera Mobility that they're not lying to me. Okay. Well, when you bring up the document itself, it's to Vera Mobility from a third party that they've subcontracted to. So it's not just hearsay, it's hearsay within hearsay. Vera Mobility also has no first-hand knowledge. It's their subcontractor. But it gets worse. Their subcontractor sends it to a professional who is another company. This is him reporting to the subcontractor, the subcontractor reporting to the subcontractor reporting to the subcontractor, and then they sending it to the contractor, and then them sending it to the police. We're 4 levels deep of hearsay. None of those people, except the one guy, can testify at all, but none of his experience, none of his training, none of his licensing. We don't know any of that. He could be an ice cream man, and this is his side gig. We have no idea that if he's doing it right. What procedures are you using? We don't know. It's not there. Yep, everything is done right. This is certified. It's good. Certified by who? By you? But yeah. Everything's fine. You just trust me. You owe me money. That's not how the law works. So that level of, that's so beyond the pale. You don't just have to trust me. You have to trust the guy that told me, but you're really not trusting him either. You're trusting the guy that told him. You're not trusting him either. You're trusting the guy that told him. So believe the guy that told the guy that told the guy that told the guy that told me. What? You were subpoenaed to be here. You have to show up in court and tell me, and they're not there. The computer itself self-checks every hour. And believe it or not one of the cameras has failed to check yet. Every single one of them, every hour. Yep, I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine.
And that makes sense. All my technology works perfectly all the time.
Every single one of these cameras, thousands of cameras around the state, they test them every hour, always fine. No instance once of them not being totally correct per the camera itself. And you go, what? So it's a fantasy land that would happen. There's no reality where not one of the cameras in the entire state once ever would be not working 100%. There's no way that that's the truth. Right. I'm sure that some of these cameras have been hit by a car, vandalized, something. You know what I'm saying? Just statistically speaking. Nope, there's no recorded instance of any of them failing a self-calibration check. Even the ones laying on the ground. Even the ones painted over by spray paint. What? So, but the officer just goes, well, it says it's fine. So, Judge, we think it's fine. And the judge goes, that's all we have, so we have to assume it's fine. No, you don't have to assume it's fine. The state has the burden to prove that it's fine, and they haven't done so. According to the Uniform Rules of Superior Court, according to the law, the rules of evidence in Georgia, according to our Constitution and the federal Constitution, you have failed to do so. I am innocent until you prove me guilty. And you have to prove me guilty via these very specific laid out laws. And you can't circumvent those laws, but they're doing everything they can to make the current law work. It's non-criminal. If it was criminal, okay, this is the procedure. But it's very, very specific in the law itself, over and over. This is a non-criminal penalty. This is not a criminal matter, not a criminal. Well, what's the other choice? Civil, right? Okay, then this is a civil matter. So I get discovery, and I get affidavits, and I get interlocutories, and I get requests for admissions. Like, this is the law. If it's civil, then here are the rules that we follow. Okay, you want to play rugby? We can play rugby. Oh, no, you want to play football? Then we're playing football. But they both have rules. We got to follow these rules. The court here in Spalding looked at it and said there's no way for the law to be internally consistent with itself. We know it's not criminal, but there's no way for me to execute this law as written, running it as a civil. So I'm going to just make it, bing, it's administrative now. Well, wait a minute. The Administrative Law Act specifically says administrative courts have to be created and empowered by acts of executive branch agencies. So like the DDS and this kind of stuff, they can say, hey, if we're going to take your license before trial or whatever, we have the administrative license suspension hearing. This is an administrative court. It's created by an executive agency who passed the law, and this is how it works. But our state court has just dubbed itself an administrative court, and so you don't get a jury, and you don't get the right to a defense attorney, and you don't get discovery, and you don't get interlocutories, and you don't get to take depositions. Sorry, it's not criminal, but I'm ruling that it's not civil, so you essentially just have to come in and prove it wasn't you. But that's just not how our law works. So the court, I'm not blaming our judge. He's looking at this law and trying to do his best with an extremely poorly written law that, frankly, I've looked into ways to rewrite it or edit it or change it slightly to make it more internally consistent. And there's just not a way to edit it to make it not unconstitutional. This is the closest thing that we have currently in the United States to issuing a letter of marque and reprisal and creating privateers out of corporations who come in and levy a tax on people who, and then that tax goes partly to their pockets and partly to, the pockets of, the government. It is textbook letter of marque. These are privateers.
Goodness gracious, dude. So many. Okay. First off, the self-calibrating machines and telling you that, yeah, they're calibrated. And then looking at the data, yeah, they're calibrated, like they say they are. So that
yeah. Well, this guy told that guy who sent me an email that says it's calibrated. Yeah, why would I not think it's calibrated?
So that reminds me so much of the way we vote here in Georgia. When you fill out your ballot digitally and it prints it off onto this sheet of paper that you can't read. I have no idea what it actually printed, but I go put it into the ballot box.
That's right. It didn't scan my ballot. It scans this QR code. Well, what's the QR code go to? I've taken pictures of my ballot. I've tried to look at that QR code and go to a website or whatever, like a normal QR code. It's not a thing. It doesn't go, oh, this is who you're voted for. Yeah. So even with my electronics, I can't see what that QR code says. It's not scanning any other part of the ballot other than the QR code. And Georgia Constitution says I have to know what my ballot is being cast. And right now, I don't know that. I can't verify that. Oh, this is what it says. It's not scanning the rest. It's only scanning the QR code, and I don't know what the QR code says.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah.
Jeez. This whole case is bizarre.
I had an attorney in court this week come up to me. He raised another good argument that I hadn't even thought of, that this is an illegal tax. And I went tax. Yeah. This is an illegal taxing. Taxing has to be done in a certain specific way, and taxing specifically can't be done in a punitive manner. You can't tax someone for doing something wrong. You can fine them criminally, but you can't tax them for doing something wrong in any other way. But it's not a tax because, it's not really for the benefit. Well, when they passed the law, their, legislative intent was this will help schools. The money will go to the school system. Now, of course, none of the money goes to the school system, none of it, but for the school's own cameras, they passed the law because this will help fund schools. Well, wait a minute. What helps fund schools? Taxes. So you are taxing me via punitive measures for allegedly speeding, which is illegal to do. I didn't make those laws. You made those laws that you're now breaking.
Man, what the heck? That was going to be one of my questions. Like, are you the only one down there fighting this?
So my firm is the ones that are taking it all the way. We've received other, support from other attorneys from all over the state, Savannah, Columbus, Macon, McDonough, who call and go, hey, have you made this argument? Hey, I wrote this, but I see that you're taking it all the way to Supreme Court. Here, let me give you my arguments, add those to it. And we go, heck yeah, absolutely. The more the merrier. Look at all the ways this law is just garbage. I mean, it's just hot garbage. Again, the intent behind the law is well, we need to keep our kids safe. The alleged intent behind the law, benefit of the doubt, is we need to keep these kids safe. But you can't judge a law based on its intent. You have to judge it based on what actually happened. And we know from the data that kids aren't more safe. In fact, the data would suggest that they are less safe because of this. For that reason and that reason alone, it should be completely thrown out. But it also just shotgun blast holes in our Constitution, in the federal Constitution, in the rules of evidence, in the, it makes no sense. The prosecutor themselves weren't originally empowered to prosecute this case. You see, the solicitor that prosecutes the case, they have a statute that says here they can prosecute misdemeanor crimes, felony crimes that are delegated to them from the district attorney, and then the following list of civil things. And that's it. This is their, empowering statute. These are the limited things that you can do. Mm-hmm. This wasn't on there. And so one of the arguments we made was, objection, Your Honor. He's trying to make arguments. He can't appear in this court. And you know what our prosecutor said? Judge, I agree. There's no statute that allows me to make these arguments. And our judge goes, somebody has to. I'm appointing you to do it. And he goes, if you're forcing me to be here, I'll do the best I can't. You're like, but James is right. It's not, So at what point do we go, hey, I get that your intent was, it's the same with the alleged intent of the Patriot Act. Oh, man, we've got to stop these terrorists. And now we have top secret FISA courts that, grant warrants to let the government do whatever they want. And you're like, that's the opposite of patriotic. Like, Thomas Jefferson's rolling over in his grave because of these courts, So it's frustrating when, they name these laws like Fluffy Bunny Law. Don't you want to save the kids law? And it's like, he voted against the Save the Kids law. And then that guy loses his seat when he's the one going, wait a minute, that's not what this law was. This law is crap. It doesn't make sense. That said, we have gained some momentum. I've been in touch with several different House members. One from Macon is dropping a bill, or has dropped a bill. What day is it? To repeal the law completely, not edit it, but go, hey, this is not okay. The people don't want this. This is unconstitutional. It's got to go. But I saw the news yesterday that the company that's raking in tens of millions of dollars just in the state of Georgia, to say nothing of Alabama and Mississippi and all the other states that they're in nationwide, they're raking in tens of millions of dollars. Well, they've spent over $588,000 on campaign contributions to Georgia legislatures. So again, to say the alleged intent of the law was nominally to make our school zone safer, but with
which you had pointed out,
588,000. But they're not safer. They're arguably less safe. Like the information on the street is that they're less safe, and not just that the school zone is less safe, but the neighborhoods around them are less safe because it's routing traffic through residential neighborhoods now, where people are trying to avoid having to go through the school zone. There are cases, and I won't name locations. I don't want to be sued, but there are cases with the sister law to this, the bus armed cameras that write you a $1,000 ticket if you drive past a school bus that stopped with the arm out. Where those buses, before that $1,000 per person they drive past, would pull into the neighborhood and let the kids out, then turn around. And now they stop on the 4-lane and sometimes 5-lane highway. And then the bus arm comes out and everyone who drives by, $1,000 ticket, $1,000 ticket, $1,000 ticket. We can't turn in there. Really? Because for 30 years they've been turning in there. And it seems fine. Is your bus driver just not skilled enough to turn in there anymore? Of course, it's a turn and it's a full neighborhood, so you can go completely around the neighborhood. You know what I mean? No, for safety, we got to stop on the highway and write 30 tickets a day. Really? So again, even that is arguably making our kids less safe because now they're letting them out on the sides of highways instead of pulling into neighborhoods.
Yeah, especially considering up north in North Georgia, a mom got arrested for letting her son walk into town on his own down a regular road.
There was a prosecution here locally. The mom pulled up at the courthouse to go and pay a speeding ticket and left her kids in the car. Car's on, they're on their tablets, everyone's happy. She walks in and she's not happy about the ticket, right? She's kind of giving everybody a little guff while she's paying her ticket. I mean, not for court. She just walks in the clerk's office to hand them the money. And but she's, you know, carrying on a little bit more, maybe more than she should have. But she's not doing anything illegal until they kick her out of the building and go, "Oh, you left your kids in the car? Well, you're under arrest for abandoning your children."
Oh, good Lord.
A jury convicted her.
No, they didn't.
A jury convicted her.
Dude.
I rode to town in the back of my dad's truck. What are you talking about? Like, this is, I don't want to go in, Dad. We'll sit here with the dog in the back of the truck. Well, I lived. They would live. They were fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's wild. It's wild.
That is. Again,
I would love to tell you that our system is perfect and there are no holes. But as we've previously discussed, there's some pretty big fissures in our law system.
Gosh. You mentioned it was up to, did you say 81,000 tickets in 3 years? Yeah,
we're quickly closing in on 82,000. And this is in 3 years. Keep in mind, our state court normally does between 8 and 10,000 cases total a year. And so effectively with this new caseload, instead of one state court judge and one state court prosecutor and one bailiff and one court reporter and we need 4 of all of those things.
Yeah.
Adding one more is going to cost us about $1.5 million a year, which is more than our sheriff brings in from these tickets, from his cut of these tickets.
I was going to say his cut, because overall it sounds like they bring in much more.
Well, overall in the state, but in Spalding County, even if every single one of those tickets were $100, that's $8,100,000 worth of tickets. But over 3 years, it would cost us more than that to run 4 state courts.
Right. Do you know how many people that 81,000 number is affecting? Because, it could be the same people getting it every single day because they go the same route every single morning.
That's true. There are a lot of people with multiples. But I don't know exactly how many individuals that is, because a lot of the tickets are written to multiple people. If you register your vehicle in your name and your wife's name, you both get the ticket. And you go to court and go, "Okay, who was driving?" They go, "I don't know." Well, Judge, somebody had to be driving. That's who you have to ticket. Yeah, sorry. We're fleet vehicles. My church has a fleet of vehicles that our missionaries use. And so it's not the person driving the car's name on there. The ticket goes to the church. So the case is the state of Georgia versus the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. What? You think the church was driving the car? Like, obviously the church can't drive. What are you talking about? Yeah, well, somebody was. And it's up to you to prove who that was. It's not my job to tell you who it was. You have to prove someone guilty who was driving. Well, I don't know. Well, then this gets dismissed, right? Nah.
Also, these days, there might not be somebody driving.
Right.
Electric cars drive themselves now.
What I do know is that Spalding County barely has 70,000 people in it, which means that we have written more of these tickets than there are citizens in Spalding County.
Oh my gosh.
To say that these tickets are causing people to slow down and that our kids are somehow safer is hilarious. Like, there's no way that that's true. That, like, the facts speak for themselves.
No kidding.
That said, in history, there's never been a recorded instance of a kid getting hurt or dying in a car wreck in any school zone in Spalding County. It's never happened. But we've got to make these new laws to make our kids safe. But no one's getting hurt currently. Why would we make these? Oh, that's right. 588,000 in political contributions. And how much money are we getting on the back end? And it's really a shame because it's still a net negative for the county. it's the county that has to fund those state courts that we now can't afford, that also funds the sheriff, who's the one getting his cut of the money. I would rather just give him more money than have to have the net loss of letting him collect more money as, through these privateers and having to fund all of the extra courts. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, there's no benefit in any direction for anyone involved except this for-profit out-of-state privateering company. They're the only ones who are benefiting from this. And of course, all those that benefited from their political contributions. And I don't know who they contributed to. I might know those people. They might be friends of mine, but you know what I mean? Like, if you do something wrong, I'm going to call you out on it. I'm sorry. So that said, I won't say that they've necessarily done something wrong. They were sold a bill of goods. This is a School Zone Protection Act. This is a great thing. People will like this. And now they should know, they know or should know, as the law often says, that's not the case. That might have been the alleged intent of the law, but that's not the result. And in this coming session, they'll have the opportunity to repeal this law in its entirety and correct their mistake. And at that point, I go, okay, you made a mistake. You fessed up to it. This law, you tried something. It didn't work. Okay. I try something and it doesn't work all the time. My wife tried to give me pho the other day. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. You know what I mean? So, this was a mistake to try this. I'll stick to Indian. Fessing up to a mistake is noble. I would love to vote for somebody who goes, hey, we tried this. It didn't work. We repealed it. Yeah. Rather than somebody who goes, no, I've chosen my side and I'm sticking to it. Even when I've been proven that it's doesn't have the effect that they sold me it was going to have.
Well, James, I think that'll do it for today, man.
Look, I love speaking to you. I love coming on. If we can get the word out about this, talk to your local legislatures, talk to, not just your state house reps, but your state Senate folks. They need to co-sign on this bill. This is going to be, this is sort of going to divide the wheat from the chaff here. Are you someone who's going to defend the Constitution, or are you not?
Yeah. So that's the way people can help is calling them representatives.
That's right.
Love it. That is said, we've discussed this a million times on this podcast. It's so easy to call your representatives. Most of the time, they will answer the dadgum phone.
Yeah. And it's most of the time it's their cell phone. Yep. And look, as an elected official myself, I love it. I met for 2 hours in my office today with people who just went, hey, we got a problem with XYZ. Let's talk about it. I would love, I'm on your side. I agree with you. How do we fight it? So, yeah.
Well, thanks, James. Appreciate it. And we'll see y'all next time.
See you next time.